live. Today it looks like I'm frozen, but today we are privileged to have Blair. Is it Wilen
Everyone
or
says it's
Wilen?
Wilen, so that works, but it is Willen.
Okay, so we have Blair Wilen. He is the CEO and founder of Ethos Support. And look, I'm privileged to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for showing up. My biggest message is to shut the hell up and let the guests get right into it. So, who are you? What do you do? And why
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me
BPO?
on. Excited to be here. I'm the founder and CEO of Ethos Support. I do have a co-founder who is our COO. She runs all of our operations, service delivery, employee experience. I run our brand, marketing, revenue, and sales functions. And I like to say we check each other's work, so we both run the business together. But founder and CEO at Ethos Support. At its core, we're a BPO, business process outsourcer, which means
Mhm.
we're an outsourcing company. Historically, has been a very people-powered industry. Obviously, a lot of technology changes, AI things being implemented into the BPO space. But I'd say, like at its core, we're a CX transformation company. We help companies stand up their first CX operation, and we help bigger companies overhaul and transform how they do CX. And we do that through a mix of incredible people still, and we always will be a very people oriented company. But now we have technology and other
Mhm.
things to make those people more efficient, more effective, and ultimately help customers at the companies we serve.
Awesome. So, what kind of markets do
Yeah,
you
so
serve?
we've been fortunate. We've been in market for a year now, and we're fortunate to have a big, a pretty broad story. We serve customers all throughout the U.S., from Silicon Valley and San Francisco through right here in Austin, Texas, and then over in New York City at some of the world's fastest growing startups. And then we also have clients around the globe. So we've got a London e-commerce brand. We've got a couple brands out of Australia. And we're even supporting customers in Japan. So we've got this global presence, and our team is based throughout the globe as well.
How is it working with Japanese
Yeah, so
clients?
we've always viewed ourselves as a really strong entry point to outsourcing, and we also view ourselves as the
Yeah.
world's most flexible outsourcer. So at its core, that's no minimum team sizes and no long-term contracts, but that also means no region specific, no language limitations. We're kind of old school. I feel like the phrase 15 years ago used to always be "the customer's always right," and that's just completely gone away. That is still our phrase. Like we want to say the
Absolutely.
customer's always right. More so, like we always want to say yes to the customer. So we were challenged with finding Japanese speaking agents, and we found two absolutely amazing folks that speak proficient Japanese outside of Japan, and they've been crushing it. Good CSAT scores, good scores across the board. So yeah, it's fun to have a little presence there in Japan. Yeah.
Wow. That is insane. That honestly, that's a first. That's a first I've heard. I've never spoken to either a UK, a Brit, a US, a US owner, an Australian owner, a European owner. I've never heard any company serving Japanese. I tried to serve one, and it was a company called Oki, and they do like printer software, laser software. Enormous billion-dollar company, but the level of like compliance, procurement stages. It seems like they're very different in terms of nothing bad, but like the cultural differences in how they conduct the process seem to be very different from what I was used to. And as you said, the customer's always right. I think that's why I had to get out of the BPO industry because I would be butting heads whenever I disagreed with them. So, look, a big question for every CEO on this podcast is why BPO? Why sales? Why did you get into this industry in itself? What compelled you to go into the craze of being a
Yeah.
business
Yeah. Well,
owner?
why sales is definitely a different question, and I'm happy to get to that. I always knew I wanted to be in sales since I was like, I can give the short version, but I always wanted to be in sales since I was literally like 10 years old. It's very weird, but my dad used to actually, I used to beg him to take me to like, I thought of sales as like the negotiation that happens when you're buying a car. So I used to beg him to take me to car dealerships. And I'm just like an 11-year-old trying to negotiate on like a 2002 like Mercury or Oldsmobile. Obviously, the salesman knew I wasn't buying a car, but I just thought that the art of negotiation was the sale. And then I went to school and I was on the sales team and won some sales contests and you know, still, my sales process is always evolving. But from when I first sold local media, I've sold ad tech, I've sold software, I sold consulting. And then finally, I found a problem that motivated me enough to jump in, and that was BPO. And the short version of it is there's just so much opportunity for improvement in BPO. There's absolutely an opportunity to get in and own a specific niche. We like to view ourselves as the entry point to outsourcing. No minimum team sizes, no long-term contracts. We want businesses of any size to be able to access world-class talent through a fully managed outsourced customer support team. Um, this industry also
Mhm.
just historically has a ton of problems. Number one being that employee experience has never truly been valued. There's a lot of lip service. And in the BPO industry,
Mhm.
38% attrition was the number last year. That basically means agents are constantly leaving. And for a business, what that means is they're constantly needing to rehire people, retrain people, and they're always playing catch up to a queue. What my partner and I have done is we've put employee experience and client experience on the same playing field, meaning that, from a client experience side, we're constantly asking for feedback. We're constantly giving them suggestions about how to enhance their customer support and customer experience. We're meeting with them regularly. We're doing
Mhm.
QBRs for all our clients. I mean, our clients will tell you we are truly client obsessed, but we are also employee obsessed because we knew we had to tackle that 38% attrition number and make it so that our agents don't
Mhm.
leave. Like that is, you can talk customer transformation, customer experience all day, technology all day, but none of it matters until you're able to get employees in the door that don't leave and build that solid foundation. And so, the short version is we pay our people well and we don't overwork them. The longer version is we pay them 2 to 3x the living wage. We give them their device. Most BPOs, make them use their own device with monitoring software. We allow them to work from home, from the comfort of their home, and we don't overwork them. We're always going to talk about workload with our client if we need to add to the team or if we need to staff it appropriately to make sure that one person is not serving two people's worth of work. And our agents have loved that. We never use the word family like a lot of companies do because my employees' family is
Yeah.
their family. And that's exactly why they want to work from the comfort of their home, close their laptop or their desktop, and go pursue their personal interests, spend time with their family, do whatever they want to do outside of work. And so we saw this opportunity to
Mhm.
really improve BPO for the better, stop making it just squeeze as much juice out of one human as you can, and that's paying dividends for our clients.
Awesome. So another thing that's interesting on the BPO side, my experience with BPO specifically when I first started, or even when I got my experience, was you would work with a company and speak to somebody like yourself or even myself, and you'd be sold because this guy knows what he's doing. He is the superstar. And then you'd get a Filipino or an Indian or a Pakistani or a Bangladeshi, and like nothing wrong with them, but typically it always ended up in some sort of language barrier or some sort of hiccup in the process. So are most of your staff international? Are they US based? And how do you kind of overcome that challenge for most other companies that have had similar
Yeah.
experiences
Yeah,
to
100%.
myself?
Like we'll build a team wherever people want them, but I always tell clients like we don't have a labor benefit in the US. Like we have the same access to the US talent pool. So when you're buying an outsourced US team, you're typically looking at it for, reasons other than economics, but more so the management and the oversight and everything that comes with it. So for that reason, most people, when they are
Mhm.
reaching out to a BPO, they're looking for an economical benefit. So we are looking at teams in APAC, in the Philippines. We're looking at teams in Eastern Europe and Romania. We're looking at teams in Latin America, a nearshore team. We're looking at teams over in South Africa, which has become a BPO hotbed. But definitely
Yeah.
a lot of a lot of teams offshore and overseas. And you're right. Like it is a huge problem in this industry that people are just grabbing whatever talent is available, throwing them on an account. And a lot of the reason for that is because BPO has historically just been wage arbitrage. It's how cheap can I find a person, And when that's the game that you're playing, you're going to get the quality that speaks to that. I have people on my team in the
Hmm.
Philippines that are way smarter than me, that communicate way better than me, that are really, really high quality, talented people. And that's the level of talent that we are bringing to our clients. Now, not every single role is going to
Hmm.
be a team lead or an operations manager. People do start off somewhere and they have career growth. Um, but that's one reason why we really focus on, the client services investment. We will always have US based CSMs. We will always have US based folks to liaison between our client and our offshore team. We will always have layers of additional management,
Hmm.
operations managers, training managers, and then absolutely incredible people on the support team itself. Um, delivering for the client. I would say, one of the things that, some of our secret sauce, if you will, is in, BPO is a very commoditized, crowded space, but our secret sauce really is in our recruiting and hiring process. I'll give a lot of credit to my co-founder,
Yeah.
Ann Bibb. She's built out, an absolutely incredible, efficient, highly effective interview process where we are able to take, essentially a global talent pool, push people through, an 8-step process in just a matter of a few days or a couple weeks, and make sure that, going through that process brings us truly the best 1% of talent, the person that is going to be a fit for that client. So we're conscious of all the biases and, they're inherent whenever you're working with an offshore team, but we're very conscious of that. And we've built a lot of mechanisms, processes, and efficiencies to make sure that we're really addressing that up front.
Awesome. So another thing you touched on where you've always been in sales, you went into those car dealerships, and like, being on the buyer side is very different from being on the seller side. My dad told me one time about 3 years ago, I was so obsessed. It was 1 year into building my business, and I was obsessed with building. Obsessed. Like it is an addiction in itself, and like nobody understands it until you're building it yourself, and you probably know too. But there comes a time where you discover this little strange thing about your personality, or there's this uniqueness about yourself. My dad said, yeah, most CEOs are usually kind of weird. That's why you are. He's a VP at Goldman Sachs, so he's been around the block a few times. When did you discover you had that spark, that knack for just elevating yourself in the nicest way? You elevate yourself above everybody else. You know you're a leader. You know you can control the room. At what age or at what year, what time did you really know that you had something different
Yeah,
about
it's a
you?
good question, and that's a tough one. I appreciate the question. I think it's always, I think life is very, it's a constant evolution. It's a constant journey. I think I'm still discovering that, right? I listen to a number of different podcasts. I listen to a number of different leaders, and I try to learn from others. And what I've learned is no one ever really gets rid of the imposter syndrome. Even people who have had a successful business and they sell it and they have a massive exit on
Hmm.
the outside, they look hugely successful. And then they go and launch business number two. The butterflies are still there. Do I deserve to be doing this? Am I
Yep.
qualified to be doing this? And so I just it took me a long time to kind of plow through imposter syndrome and just, basically try to make the right decision at every moment, every day, every week, and grow the business that way. Um, when did it start? I mean, when I was 21, I worked for a local TV station in San Antonio, and I had no idea how the corporate world worked, and I was very nervous. I just knew I couldn't stand it. Every day felt like years. I was like, I can't do this. And so while everyone was at, this TV station, the staff would always go out for lunch. Like every birthday, everyone would go, like 30 people would go out for lunch. So I went out for lunch and I ran back before everyone else and I packed up my desk and left. And that's how I quit that job. And I did that to start a dog waste removal company, which is a professional way of saying I picked up shit. And I just wanted to chase, what there was a need in the market for. I uprooted my life. I was living in San Antonio. I moved to Dallas and we started it based off of my dog's name. It was called Shazed Waste, Professional Pet Waste Removal. We stood up a site. We just tried to do what we thought was right. We got a few customers, and I was picking up shit. And I learned at that time I was too early. I wasn't ready. I didn't have the drive. I wasn't organized enough. I wasn't mature enough. And I came crawling back to corporate America as quick as I could do it. But over the years, I learned a lot about leadership. I learned about a lot about business. I sold everything from SMBs and local, AC companies up through massive, you know, $5 billion enterprises. Obviously, matured a lot. And as soon as I identified a problem that felt accessible and meaningful, I pounced on it, and that's when finally a year ago jumped back in and started Ethos. But yeah, man, I'd say imposter syndrome hasn't gone away. I don't expect it to go away. I'm just trying to have fun and enjoy the process. I don't want to look back and whether we're, let's assume we're successful. I don't want to look back and, not have appreciated the grind each day. So I just try to stay in the moment, make the right decisions, day after day, and really enjoy the process. And the nerves will come and go.
So draw a line in the sand on this piece. So I've known this. So there's this culture about like
Mhm.
grind hard every day. You gotta wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning. You gotta do all this
Yeah.
crazy shit. And I was just like, I am going to prove this wrong. I'm
Yeah.
gonna prove this
Yeah.
wrong. And I did. And I would get up at there was a point where this one kid, his name was Siraj. He was one of those problematic people you hire onto the team, always had something to say, always wanted to push back, but he was able to deliver. And to get through to him, I had to wake up at like
Yeah.
6 o'clock every day and help him. And after a while, it's like, I'm not doing this. Fuck this. So I started getting up a little bit later, but I would work later. I would take more breaks. The grind wasn't so stringent like people boast about on
Hmm.
social media, but it was done in a unique way where I was effective, I was efficient, right? So a lot of people don't know what it's like to build a business. They think they know, they may have had
Yeah.
something passed down to them. So for you, you could speak to Blair 10, 20 years ago. Describe to Blair what it's like to build a business.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Blair 20 years ago thought he was just negotiating car prices, so he definitely has a lot to learn. But yeah, man, building a business. I'm not gonna lie. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I wish I read more books, but I learned from a lot of people, and I think it was Brad Jacobs. I may be wrong. Shout out to the Founders podcast and everywhere else that had him on. Um, yeah, I'm not a huge Brad Jacobs ambassador, but I did hear just that something that really hit, and it's just business is just this isn't going to be the exact quote, but it's just like all a business is a kind of organized construct of solving problems. Like all it is just solving
Yep.
problem after problem after problem. And so that's how I would define a business. Like I hate the bullshit of business. I hate anytime I have to talk about anytime I have to talk to legal or look at how our business is filed or organized or managed. I hate when I have to talk about taxes and the finances of it. Like ultimately, I just want to deliver a product, put this much margin on it, and like just and improve the product and care about our clients. But yeah, I mean, it's really just a construct of solving problems, and there's different ways that people attack the problems and prioritize the problems, but ultimately, people come to us because they need CX solved. They need the right people, they need the right technology, they need the right processes, documentation. And that's the overarching problem. And we're here to solve it for them. And then we have our own host of problems that we need to solve about how we're going to most effectively deliver that. And so, I've really adopted this so that when a problem presents itself, especially a complex one that makes me want to bang my head on the desk, it's like, this is not a negative thing. It's a positive opportunity that we have this problem to solve, because that's what building a business is and that's what we signed up for. And so I think just reframing that mindset has been
Yeah.
really, really helpful in what this is.
So the people who are going to get smacked in the face with a brick when times get tough and you want to give up. That's why I think founders, CEOs they're just built differently. And if you can't do it, then you're not a true founder CEO. But how do you stay afloat? How do you stay composed? How do you stay resilient when times are really tough? Like when you have to, for I don't know if you've been through it yet, but at the early stages, there were times where I had to pay people before me. I had to pay salaries over myself. I had to pay this over like, oh my God. Sometimes it was like
Yeah.
back-breaking, mind
Yeah.
breaking fucking challenges. How did you kind of
Yeah,
weather those
yeah, man.
storms?
We're a bootstrapped company only a year in, so we're still weathering those storms, and I'm happy to admit that. But yeah, I mean, some of those decisions are easy, right? Like paying people before yourself. But frankly, I'm going to point to more literature that I really has inspired me. Um, you know, Look, I always tell people sometimes you feel like you've got it figured out and you're just going to take over the industry. I'm a big believer in progressive ambition. Mark Zuckerberg, when he first started Facebook, he just wanted to get everyone at Harvard to download it. And then he wanted, the next campus to download it. Now the guy wants to own the metaverse. So he didn't know when he started Facebook that he wanted to own the metaverse. So I'm all about progressive ambition, but some days it does feel like, man, I've got the path to turning this into $1 billion company figured out. I know exactly what we need to do. And then some days I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Why did I quit my job, start this company, and put myself through this? I don't have any of this figured out. But I go back to just some kind of core literature and things that have really spoken to me. Paul Graham, don't die, right? Paul Graham, founder of YC, the whole point is not to die. The reward for not dying is millions of dollars. If you can simply stay afloat. I think he has
Yeah.
a line in there that says, startups rarely die mid keystroke, so keep typing. I think, the don't die mindset is really critical. We don't have to have reached a certain level of success. We don't need to have accomplished really anything. Goals are arbitrary. The whole point is to stay in the game, give ourselves an opportunity to get lucky, and doing that over the long term,
Mhm.
you'll go towards the average, which we believe will net out in success. So, yeah, I try to just remind myself of these points and not let any of the negativity or the bullshit eat at me and grind us into death. I think it's overall over time you look back and you're proud and you can say it's working.
Absolutely. Look, I fully agree with that. And then on to the next part, which is where we kind of touch on the use of AI in businesses today, how it is being used. Are you using it? So, after building my agency for a couple of years, the biggest hurdle was recruitment. The biggest hurdle ended up being maintaining the level of performance that a rep would come in with, keep it consistent, and hopefully improve. Some plateaued, some get bored. I actually had a very, very strong retention rate for my team. I think out of what, 17, 18 people, we only ever fired two or three.
Hmm.
And that was over a 3 or 4 year period. But I got into it because I was really good in selling, closing, prospecting. I knew I had the knack for it, and I thought if I could build a business and just do
Hmm.
it the way I did, I
Yeah.
would make everybody happy. And then I soon started to hire people. Even my co-founder, it was like pulling teeth from a. Oh my god, it was an absolute nightmare. Now it's 2024, and I'm almost half a year into developing an AI company with the team that I'm with. And the differentiator, the reason I joined that team was because I
Hmm.
could replicate myself. I could replicate the narrative of my company. I could replicate the narrative of another company. And you can actually create a level of competence, a level of skill, a level of deliverables that far exceeds your average Joe. So I think the biggest application that we've seen in our industry today is the use of AI in sales and marketing. And the way we're doing it is looking at how do we really amplify, how do we unlock the true talent of your reps with AI, not to use AI to replace them, but to unlock that talent that they have never seen before. Maybe them working with AI to
Hmm.
ask questions, having AI as an assistant. How do you think companies should be using AI in sales and marketing today?
Yeah, that's a good question. We really think a lot about AI related to operations and related to the opportunity that it has on our product. As far as sales and marketing go, I mean, we're using it to try to replicate the efforts of a BDR team, right? Which, at its core, a BDR
Hmm.
team does a lot of prospecting. Old school, a lot of a lot of BDRing was a lot of bullshit, right? It was a lot of begging the AE to qualify a meeting, and there was
Yep.
a lot of like clicking around buttons and taking as long a lunch break as possible. And it was a lot. The art of bullshit. Don't get me wrong. I've been there. That's necessary, especially in the old world where you were in 8 to 5, 5 days a week. Thank God that's over. But I think, AI on the sales front is like, how do we, how do we replicate sales team efforts? How do we prospect more efficiently? How do we A/B test more messaging? How do we get more messages out to the market? But at the same time, like, how do you make sure that you are not just sounding like the 50 messages you and I probably get in our inbox every single day? So it's not just about
Mhm.
like creating more mass and more volume. It's about creating more efficiency in the sales process and speeding up, finding out what works. And we're still going through that journey, and we'll always go through that journey. It's like it's like sales is like a marketing channel now. How do you get it to work, and then how do you make it more efficient? And there's a lot more technology to make that happen.
Absolutely.
On the marketing front, I mean, we do some things around content strategy to for AI, but we're still very protective of the messaging that we're putting out. We're still tiptoeing around, AI, fully AI based messaging. We'll use it to like assist, blogs and some content. But really, like, we want to have a very strong direct message to our audience, and so we're really protective of what we put out there, and we'll use, some tools to brainstorm and get a little bit more creative. But we're still looking at the best way from a marketing standpoint as to how to do that. Operations, we're all over it, and we have a lot of motivation around AI and where our product is going. But on the sales and marketing side, it's
Mhm.
a journey. I don't know if this can be a two-way conversation, but I'd love to point it back to you and just say, like, how are you thinking about AI in sales and marketing? Like, where have you seen the best efficiency?
So right now, what we're doing with our company, so we've brought on 26 partners, and these partners are interested in having the benefit to these partners is we're building AI agents for their company. So we're talking companies like Aliyu, we're talking companies like Orem. These companies have significant
Hmm.
calling data. They have significant customer interactions around that, well, data around those customer interactions, and we're able to extract that data, put it into our machine language, well, our language learning model, and that is able to create a narrative that is then reinstalled back in that business.
Hmm.
So now those 100, 200 human reps that they're paying salaries for are in the millions. So instead of firing the entire force, we're amplifying the workforce. Maybe we reduce
Hmm. Hmm.
50% of that workforce. We complement it with AI. And let's just
Hmm.
say Blair has Blair's 2.0
Hmm.
AI
Hmm.
agent next to him. Blair's 2.0 agent is the one who makes those calls, speaks to those gatekeepers, has those
Sure.
appointment setting calls. And then again, without when certain regulations allow outbound to take place, in the interim period, it's
Hmm.
just with inbound. So your
Hmm.
webinar
Hmm.
leads, your
Hmm.
event leads. But in essence, how hard is it for you to insist that your team follow up with a lead 7, 8,
Sure.
9, 10,
Sure.
20 times?
Sure.
They don't answer, they will, like, the common industry standard
Sure.
is 2 to 3
Sure.
times,
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
they'll give it up. It'll be a dead lead. But that if that lead gets contacted, and again, as long as the other person on the other side of that phone knows, hey, this is Veronica, I'm an AI agent. Do you want to speak to me or do you want to speak to a human rep? Ah, yeah, if you're a technology company, you'd probably want them to say, yeah, I'll speak to you. Call the reason for the call, blah, 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 blah. Do you want to take the meeting or not? That no, that is typically your
Sure.
98 out of 100. We now have
Sure.
eliminated that
Sure.
time
Sure.
significantly.
Yeah.
So these companies are now using this to leverage
Yeah.
their own AI agents. They're able to scale their operations 24/7, appointment scheduling
Yeah. Yeah.
24/7,
Yeah. I mean, we
around the
all know, like,
clock
I think one of the
activity.
first things an evolution of a salesperson, you realize that the second best answer that someone can tell you is no, because at least you've gotten an answer. And the amount of time spent, if you could quantify how much that happens, how long it takes to get to a no, I mean, there's tons of efficiency to build there, right? But sometimes it's a relief when you hear a no,
It's
right?
insane.
Like I almost I've had breakup emails be my third email before. That's a little too easy and early, but it's like, look, just tell me no and let's move on. There's a lot of market out there and we got a lot of problems to solve. So let's both move on if it makes sense.
Well, this is the thing. Like, some people are afraid of hearing that no, so they won't really
Sure,
force
sure.
that type of answer. You have to have like thick skin, and you have to know really the market very well. You have to have experience in doing it to get to that stage. So, as we wrap it up, what are your predictions for the use of AI in, let's be very specific, in BPOs, contact centers, specifically to your role? What's your prediction over
Oh
the next
man.
1, 2, 3 years
Man.
using AI?
Yeah, I'm fired up about this question. I think, all of my competitors in the space, they have to walk this fine line where they want people to know that they care about AI and are thinking about AI, but realistically, their core business is thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. And they know AI is coming for their business. And a brand new BPO like me, I also know AI is coming for their business. And I know that it can come from my business or I can make it work for it. And so we're really excited about what AI is going to enable us to offer as far as an expanded product
Hmm.
goes. People come into our pipeline today because they need CX solved. And for 50, 60, 100 years, that's meant I need a cheap person offshore and I need, cheap labor to support my customers. Um, and that equation has changed. People are still coming in and saying, I need CX solved, but now they're saying, I don't know what tools to use. And even if I knew what tool to use, I don't know how to set it up. And even if I know how to set it up, I don't know how to constantly manage and maintain it. I don't know how to get all my documentation built out for it. I don't know how to get my knowledge base built and updated. I don't know how to constantly refresh it. I don't know how to train the AI. And I still don't know what equation of people are needed because even the world's leading AI CX tools will tell you 40% of tickets on average will be solved in a good use case and 60% in a best in class use case. Um, there's tons of studies. There's a Qualtrics customer support survey recently. Customers still very, very much want to talk on the phone. They still want to chat to a human. Even Gen Z, even Gen Z wants to
Yep.
talk on the phone. Maybe not to their parents, but when it's about a brand or support, then they do. And so, what is that mix, and how can we help people find the right tool, implement it, onboard it, maintain it, and still give them absolutely incredible people that don't leave? And ultimately, how do we assign customer experience as a value differentiator towards a business? And the constant shift of viewing it not as a cost item, but as a profitable item. And so, um, yeah, I'm really excited about creating the efficiencies, meeting the customer where they want to meet the brand, and then using AI wherever we can throughout that journey and still supporting them with absolutely amazing people that don't leave. You're going to see the best brands implement the best customer experiences. It's going to be a differentiator when anyone can spin up any brand pretty much overnight. Your brand, how you talk to your customers, how you use that as a growth lever, that's going to become everything for each company. And you'll see a big delineation between those who value customer experience and those who don't. So we're really excited about what AI brings to that. And we're excited to be the company that holds someone's hand from, an overloaded support queue all the way through an automated customer experience and customer journey. And then supporting them with amazing humans on the back end too. So we're excited about it. And it's going to be a massive,
I
massive
love
impact.
it. I love it. And this is why I love being on these podcasts. Again, there was a time where some people say I'm arrogant, obnoxious about it, but there was a time where I was in the workforce and you have
Hmm.
conversations with people that are just about the workforce. And then you get to have these conversations with leaders like yourself, business owners. The narrative is very different. You just
Hmm.
get the conversation. The way you treat your customers or know how the customer experience should be is very, very different. So there's a young group of, let's say, 18 to 34 year olds out there, and they're like, yo, this guy Blair knows what the fuck he's talking about. I want to follow this guy. But how do I be successful like him? So, what are the three, if you could pick one, two, or three, it doesn't matter what the number is, What are the three pillars to success? Up to three pillars of success
Yeah,
in your
that's a
mind.
good question. Number one, just get started. Like, don't wait. Do whatever you need to do to hype yourself up, but just start. Start on anything. Start on something, and make sure you're locked in on that one problem and give it its time to grow. Um, Kind of similarly, but number two, just like plow through investor syndrome, or excuse me, imposter syndrome. I'm sure there's an investor syndrome too, but plow through your imposter syndrome. You have every single right to start something and do something and add value to the world. You are not any less deserving than the successful person that you see on TikTok or on Twitter or on LinkedIn. They are not any more special. They are not any more deserving. They are not really any smarter. You have the skill set, the wherewithal, the determination to go and do it. And then number three, just be very selective with who you surround yourselves with. Pick a good partner, pick a good team, be very
Wow.
selective, be selfish to some extent. And kind of three, be like, always do right by people. Karma does come around, and over the long haul, surround yourselves with good people, be good to people, and it'll pay itself back 10 times over.
Mate, you're absolutely right. So, for the people that do want to learn more, they want to buy your services, hopefully that is the outcome. Where do they come and find you and have those types of
Yeah, man. I feel
conversations?
like no matter how successful Ethos gets, I'm always going to be the kind of guy who responds to his phone right away. If you're trying to sell me something, maybe not, but I text extremely quick. It's a positive or
Yes.
a negative quality. So I'm super accessible. But I'm in Austin, Texas. If you're here, barbecue, beer, let's go get one. Find me on LinkedIn. Find me on Twitter. I think it's Digital Willen on Twitter. I don't have a TikTok. I have a TikTok. Don't go there. But hit me on LinkedIn. I'm also first name dot last name at ethossupport.com, blair.willen at ethossupport.com. And I'll happily give you my number and we can be friends. We can be networked. And if you need an amazing BPO, of course I got you. So hit me on any of them.
Hit them up. Hit 'em up. Well, look, I really appreciate your time,
Yeah,
Blair.
Shane.
Thank you very much. I can now go figure out how to get short gum out of my
Good luck
hair.
with that, man. We
So
haven't figured that one out yet.
until, until next time, Blair, thank you very much. I'll cut this up and we'll send it over to you shortly. I'm going to push stop now and
Cool.
give me 1 minute. That's it, guys. All right.